as yes, this can only mean one thing. Depths of Gaming, episode 66. A lot of people died on that order.
Indeed.
A lot of people, a lot of good people. Some of them weren't technically people, but if you think that, you're kind of an alien racist, and you probably are perfectly fine with our orange leader. So
Yes.
that is Jahid.
He's Necro!
Ah!
And he's Necro. Hello! Hello, comrade!
I think we both tried too hard. Well, let's keep going. We're live, gentlemen.
We are tryhards.
We are tryhards. We are special snowflakes with depth charges for you, the people.
Yes.
Culling
the people
2.
republics of Gametopia.
That is true. The Culling 2 has been pulled off of Steam permanently.
Well, if you release a shitty game, it's going to be pulled off Steam.
That's actually not true. But when you release a extraordinarily shitty game that is damaging your entire existence as an indie developer, yes, you might want to yank it off Steam. Which they did after 7 days.
Now, why was it so bad?
Well, we touched on this last week. Essentially, the Culling one was all about spawning you into this area, and you had to find sticks and stones to craft into weapons, and you also had to loot to find weapons and equipment. And there was a huge focus on melee. It was a very brawl-heavy game, where Culling 2, from the looks of it, was a standard drop, find a gun, and shoot sort of game. So a lot of the intensity of the original game was kind of lost in the sequel.
Yeah, people don't like it when you fuck too much with the original, right? They're used to a certain brand, certain look and feel, and if they don't get that, people get pissy, especially gamers.
Oh yeah, and they did, in droves. Speaking of piss, for some reason, King Tide is a battle royale game developed by the people that made Depth. So they're probably flipping their assets. In the water with sharks. There's a battle royale game in the water with sharks and flipped assets and coral and divers and guns. And
it reminds me of Raft a little bit.
I mean,
imagine Raft Battle Royale. You build your own raft, you put guns on it like siege weapons, cannons from all the different shit that floats around in the ocean.
Yeah, it's a battle royale shooter sending 100 divers to the depths of the ocean, avoid bloodthirsty sharks, locate equipment, and do whatever it takes to be the last diver swimming. That actually sounds pretty fun.
Yeah, and pretty much like Raft.
Well, Depth. Raft isn't a sharks versus diver game.
Well,
I mean,
kind of,
sort of, not, but I mean, I'm pretty excited because something that always bothered me about Depth is because of how the game worked, you weren't really able to explore the game world too easily. Where battle royale games, you are kind of the big shit in your part of the map. So so I really like that you hunt the sharks, you kill other players, and that's going to be pretty interesting when that comes out. I don't think it has a...
There needs to be more games about underwater worlds, because so far we have what?
Well, Subnautica is the famous one.
Subnautica, yeah. And there's also Subculture, but that's more about exploring a puddle rather than underwater.
and BioShock does kind of play with the
Yes,
water,
I'm
but for the
old.
most part, it's not really underwater.
Yeah, you're basically in a building that has giant aquariums stuck to the windows.
Like the setting is underwater, but you're not actually in the water. Though in
Hmm.
2 there are walk around segments in the water. Um, it is amazing how much of a letdown those 2 games are. They're BioShock 1 and 2 are widely renowned as suggested to be very good games, but they're watered down versions of System Shock 2.
Yes, and we need more System Shock. We need more of that oppressive. You are an insignificant insect kind of horror games.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm mostly talking about the kind of mechanics you were playing with in that game. Like you had a drag and drop inventory. You had character development. Like it was one of there was a handful of games like that, but System Shock 2, I argue, was better than Deus Ex.
Hmm. Definitely, you had more freedom in terms of character customization. I would like to say, because psionics, uh, all the different augmentation, and especially Deus Ex felt for me like this kind of disjointed experience,
Yes.
at least compared to System Shock, because simply because in System Shock you have this one dominating presence of Shodan that ties the entire narrative of the game together. In Deus Ex, you have this living,
Shady,
yeah,
evil organization. I think they're the
yeah.
Illuminati.
Oh,
Um,
you have multiple shady organization. In Tokyo, you have different ones. In New York, in America, you have different
oh, they're
ones.
everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and all of them are hell bent on world domination.
Right. Uh, our next step charge. Northgard has introduced Snake Clan DLC. So for $5 or $6, I don't remember which. You unlock a new clan, and they operate a little differently. They're stealth based, and they don't use honor. It whole mechanic of the game. They just fucking ignore it.
So they are dishonorable.
Yes, they are sneaky gits. They don't believe in honor.
Fancy that.
So they play differently. They're more aggressive for sure. Uh, and instead of honor scaling their warlord, she starts young, and as she grows up, she gets stronger.
Interesting.
And here's the big news: Civilization 6 removed Red Shell, which was the software inclusion that a lot of games had that were spying on. It was generally spying on people, and a lot of people were worried because they felt it was invasive.
Oh, yeah. People do not like when they're being watched. Voyeurism is not a good trait when you are a game developer. However, I do understand why one would like that. You want to know how people enjoy your game, so when you release the next one, you can capitalize on that knowledge.
Absolutely. So with Civilization 6 removing Red Shell, that's big. That's really big because we weren't sure if they were going to do it. We weren't sure at all.
People have right to their privacy, and I'm glad that game developers, at least the developers of Civilization 6, actually respect that.
Yeah, so as of now, I'm pretty sure the number is around 50 to 45% of the games that were identified with Red Shell have dropped it. So
Hmm.
so this is great.
It
Uh,
would have been nice if the Red Shell actually asked for permission whether you want to give your informations to the game developer. Like, for example, the times you play, the
if it was yeah,
hardware
if you could
specs, and
opt
so
into
on.
it, that would be great. But
Yeah,
unfortunately, no.
it's uh, either you are forced to it or the game developer removes it.
Yes, uh, and that brings us to the main news. Wow, August has a lot of release dates. I don't think it's on here, but there are a lot of games that aren't on here. This is a kind of side list, but
Yeah, it's almost as if every game developer and publisher just jizzes on the E3, and then they need couple of months to recuperate.
yeah, because they all spent their energy in E3. And now they're gearing up for release. A lot of these games are coming out, so that means Yakuza 0, Overcooked 2, We Happy Few, as we mentioned last episode, that's coming out on the 10th. That's a game that a lot of people have been waiting for. Because even though I've played it, I haven't even touched on the story because of how they did their early access. So I'm very excited to finally get closure on that game.
Yes, we'll see how that We Happy Few game fares as a AAA release.
Yeah.
Because it is a AAA game. It is no longer an indie.
Well, it
Don't
has a
try to tell me
AAA
otherwise.
budget now, so
Yep.
yeah. And it shows. They have their content rolled out far more effectively once they had their budget. Phantom Doctrine. Holy shit, Phantom Doctrine. This game, I watched a playthrough of a level earlier today, and it blew my mind. I saw a trailer before, and the trailer was kind of interesting. It interested me, but it was more of a story trailer. This was the game, and holy shit,
It looks sweet.
it
Basically, what XCOM was supposed to be from the beginning.
it's the kind of game that I wanted XCOM to be, a simulation of what it means to be this organization in the game world. You
Yeah.
are spies. You can suit up for any kind of engagement you want. You can sneak around the
Mhm.
levels. You have to steal
You
documents.
are the underdogs. You're not just people who go out into the wilderness of Earth and kill aliens to gain XP. You are supposed to take aliens down as efficiently as possible and gain as much knowledge and information from them as possible.
Yes,
You're
because
not
you have
supposed to be like
multiple
this.
conspiracies to unravel.
Yeah, yeah. XCOM is a little bit too gamey, right?
Yeah.
With especially with the fact that when you walk up to the alien and shoot, and you miss. Ree!
Absolutely.
I'm sure everybody felt that.
Because, oh, wow. The thing with Phantom Doctrine is it presents you the common Firaxis formula, the action point grid RPG in a whole new light. It allows you to tactically move your guys around. It allows you to breach rooms at the same time from multiple angles. And it makes use of the gameplay mechanics to bring everything all together. Christian or you didn't hear that. Jahith is is right. The Firaxis XCOM games were way too gamey. They play like simulated board games, where Phantom Doctrine is more of a simulate kind of RT. No, a strategy RPG
Tycoon?
rather.
Yeah, I guess a strategy RPG. I would, yeah.
So
That would be
fans of
is.
Jagged Alliance 2 are going to be creaming their pants. Walking Dead is still going. Whatever. When it's done, I'll get it on sale and finally play through that schlock. I got really tired of the way Telltale makes their games.
Yeah, they no longer release a game. Right now, they release like a game, chop it into pieces, and sell each piece at a different time, which is weird.
Well, that and the game, and it doesn't really get better.
Uh-huh.
Where other times you'll see games get better as the episodes come out, like Bendy and the Ink Machine. Every episode was progressively better than the last.
And that's because they actually use their funds right. And when it comes to Telltale Games, they do not have good way with money. They don't strategize their spending too well.
No.
That means that they are very inefficient, and whatever money they do get, they spend on weird shit that doesn't really make the game better.
It's also worth noting that King of Tides should be in here somewhere. It has an August release date, so that's going to be interesting. Shenmue 1 and 2 are getting re-released. Little Dragon's Cafe, whatever the fuck that is. Oh, it's not PC. That's why I don't know. I do not know.
PC Master Race.
Strange Brigade, which I think is going to be awful.
Oh, really?
I think it's just another generic, hey, look, we're kind of like Left 4 Dead. It looks schlocky, and I don't,
at least
like it.
they're at least they're aping Left 4 Dead and not another battle royale.
Yeah. Clearly, we need a Left 4 Dead that is battle royale.
That's interesting. Will it have zombies in it?
It can.
It needs to have zombies.
Like have groups of 4 survivors just running around while zombies just kind of are in the environment, and you have to like 6 zombies on people. That would actually be pretty fun. Because they tried to make a Dead Island MOBA, but I think that's their problem. They jump their gun on the make a generic MMO train. I think they should have waited, because clearly what they need to fuck up is a battle royale game with Dead Island.
Imagine a situation. You have a battle royale game with 4 people teams, and the best weapon is a screaming doll that you basically pull the string on, throw it, and when it lands, it starts crying, attracting all the zombies.
Yeah, like almost no bullets, all melee. You have to really manage your zombies, because they will multiply.
Yep. And the way the game areas gets smaller and smaller and smaller is by hordes of zombies actually spawning outside of the game area and moving in.
Oh, so like a perimeter is formed?
Yes. It's much more natural than like a field, like an electric force field that pushes people together.
Yeah, especially because they portray this evil fog that comes in, and like fog doesn't roll that well. Unless we're in the Lovecraft universe, fog doesn't work that way. So,
Hey,
huh?
we could go with Cataclysm, where every possible cataclysm comes out. Zombie apocalypse, AI rebellion, hell spawning from alternate dimensions, everything. Including the Triffids.
Not speaking of Triffids, Shadow of War has removed microtransactions.
And we care because...
Because they did it at a dickish time. Right as they're releasing expansions and putting the game on sale, they yank microtransactions. As if to say, we have milked these idiots for all we can. Let us now make the game as intended.
Yeah. This is horrible. This is... It basically shows that they did not need those microtransactions in there to begin with.
Right. You're right.
Didn't they do that before? Like with a different game? The same developer, I swear they put
You're thinking of EA.
microtransaction? Yeah.
Because EA
Probably.
made Battlefront 2. Well, it's Battlefront 4, but it's called Battlefront 2 because they rebooted it because they had to fuck up the license somehow. It's kind of good they did, because that way when they make Battlefront 5, they'll be able to call it Battlefront 3 and go, "Hey, we're with the other Battlefronts, not the other Battlefronts." And then everyone will be confused because it'll be 5. And fuck these people.
There's so many battlefronts. Even Hitler didn't fight on so many fronts.
Just all the bullshit.
Unfortunately.
And I really hate this strategy of relying on making moves that look good after purposefully doing something bad.
Yeah, you know why they do that? Because next time you say, well, at least it wasn't that. Right? They're still progressively fucking you over more and more and more. But when they roll back on it, you basically give them that sigh of relief, but you're still being fucked over, only not as much, which is wrong. It's basically the slow boiling of a frog.
Yeah. Because it felt like they were just feeling out their audiences. Wow, we could get people to pay essentially more if we offer them more content. And it proves to them, at least, Ubisoft, I believe, that they're able to just sucker people. They're able to bait and switch with content. They're able to do all these things to disadvantage gamers.
Yep.
And the fact they're willing to do this is just unacceptable.
Don't worry, dear viewer. We are fighting for your rights as well, so that you do not have to deal with this shit.
Absolutely. For every day, we are working on a kill satellite that shoots laser beams down.
Yes. We are going to purge the earth of the unworthy.
Speaking of the unworthy, we have answers that nobody wanted for them.
Ah. Who's the unworthy today?
The unworthy is Kigit42, who writes, "What's wrong with Xanathar's Guide to Everything and Modern Gaiden's Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. I've been hearing a lot of hate for Wizard of the Coast's recent releases. I had the chance to leaf through both Xanathar's and Mordenkainen's books, and they seem like quality content. There's not too much fluff, and there are plenty of mechanics and stat blocks in the books. What is exactly all the hate for? Diablo.
I think that's more of a question to you, Necro.
Moi? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have no clue. I actually do know why. It's because because back in the old days, in the 3.5 days, there was the open gaming license period, which, by the way, is back now. And during the OGL period, books would be released, but what people wanted is that sweet customization content. They want new magic weapons, they want new class archetypes, they want new races. Those are the three things they want: equipment, class features, and race features. Those are three things they want. And the reason these two books are having a little bit of feedback is because of the three things that players want aren't being represented enough.
Oh, I see.
Because there's always a lot of fluff writing and information that can be useful in game mastering sometimes, but a lot of people have already figured that kind of shit out for themselves. What they really want is rules to apply in the game system.
I see. So basically, it's those books are more of a fluff material, right? The things that allows both players and game masters to better express themselves in the world that is created by them and for them.
Yes,
And what players want is more content, and they do not recognize fluff as content.
Yes, though those books do have a lot of content, they don't have enough, essentially.
Sounds reasonable.
Especially because what they did in selecting a lot of that content was they ran it through a gauntlet. And a lot of what's in that book is Unearthed Arcana or from the Sword Coast book that they've repackaged into one book so that it can be used in Adventure League efficiently. Because that's essentially the purpose of those two books. Is if you're sitting in an Adventure League table, you're allowed to pick one other book than the handbook to be your supplement for your character.
As long as it's official.
Yes, it has to be an official book. So
interesting.
So that's why is when you go to an Adventure League table, you'll bring the Player's Handbook and Xanathar's or the Player's Handbook and Mordenkainen's, but that's how they do it essentially.
And now, since the Xanathar's Guide to Everything and the other books do not give you as much substance, they're less valuable to bring into the game. Right?
In perception. Because they do offer new classes that are powerful, new class abilities and such. And new monsters and new everything, but what they don't do is sate the player's requirement for even more content. The opinion is they're not being released fast enough and they're not generating enough content. Because remember,
I can see both sides of the argument here. On the one side, you want to give players as much content as possible.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you do not want to dump on the GM, especially the official GM, so much data that they have trouble handling every piece of detail.
Absolutely.
Right?
If the kind of book that the fan base wanted actually came out, it would truly stress test the Adventure League system. Because you have to then tell thousands of both professional and amateur GMs, by the way, here's like 300 new things you need to know.
Ouch.
And like 75 of them are are new subclasses. 100 of them are new magical items. 100 of them are this. 100 of that. And you're gonna drive them fucking nuts. And
I just imagine. I heard a great disturbance in the force. It's like thousands of GMs screamed out at once. Wait, you can do that?
Like, that's the problem with what they're doing right now in their release schedule is they're trying too hard to make this a family-friendly board game experience when a lot of these gritty old grognards want a meat grinder like Gygax wanted.
Yep.
Because something people forget about Gygax is he was a character sociopath. Oh, he was perfectly fine with normal people.
I think a lot of people...
But fictional characters must die. That was just his way. He believed that the world of Dungeons and Dragons was extremely, extremely lethal.
I think what Wizards of the Coast need to do is into two different... a home version and version of D&D.
Well, the other thing...
D&D and Dragons.
Well, the other thing they're able to do is release a book that is simply not usable in the Adventure League system. That would also be the other way that they would get around it.
Yeah.
And still release the book. And then if they get to the point where they're going to allow some of it, all they have to do is pick and choose what's allowed.
Yeah. Maybe create a little like an icon that says this can be used in the the Adventure League system. This can be used in Adventure League. This cannot be used, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. If something like that did come out, that would have to be the way they did it. But that's the answer that nobody wanted, and that's also our show.
Yes, thank you everyone for joining us.
Absolutely. Have good one.